Hi, everyone. I'm Regina Leung, Director of the VEF Industry Insight Panel Series. I have sincerely apologize that we're half an hour delayed. There's some technical difficulty. It's the world, right? It's a technical world. So anyway, welcome everyone to join us in celebration of the Asian Heritage Month. So this time we present 4 panels during this series from now until tomorrow. And we'll tackle the topics focusing on developing your next project with short and features, TV series, and also talk about your professional career in film and TV. So we begin by acknowledging that the land that we are broadcasting at is the unceded territory of the Musqueam, Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh First Nations, as well as the Mississauga of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat people. So today we kick off our panel, dive deep into the CMF pilot program for racialized creators. So this program is sponsored by public funder Canada Media Fund and industry sponsor Canadian Media Producer Association. It's also supported by different community organizations. Exploration, Vancouver Asian Heritage Month Society, DOCSA, Story Money Impact, Vancouver Short Film Festivals, Vancouver International Film Festival, and Quarantine Capsule, QK. And now I would like to invite Susan Hansen, our festival director, here to say a few words.
Thank you, Regina. Hi, I'm Susan Hansen. I'm the Festival Director for the Vancouver Asian Film Festival. The Vancouver Asian Film Festival is the longest running Asian film festival in Canada. And this year, we celebrate a milestone, our 25th anniversary. And this year, we come to you with the theme of past, present, and possibilities. We're going to celebrate our past achievements for the past 25 years and the legacy that it has created for Asian films and filmmaking in Canada. And we recognize that VAF is as its growing role and the influence that it has in promoting Asian film and culture in present day. As we move to the future and the possibilities that it holds and the opportunities for us and where the future holds and we look more towards inclusion and representation. Now, as I said, we talked about VAF being a 25th year, and we are celebrating big, and we want those filmmakers and storytellers of Asian diaspora to share their story and films and submit their films right now, and it's open until June 5th. So please submit your films before it's too late, and have the opportunity to share your film in the spotlight with us for our 25th year. So for our 25th year, we are having a festival that is going to be a hybrid model. We are going to do 4 days live and the rest of the days as an online festival, and it will run from November 4th to 14th. So everyone, come and celebrate our 25th anniversary with us. And once again, for those filmmakers, submit before it's too late. Our closing date is June 5th, which is just around the corner. And have a great panel, everyone. Thank you. And I'm going to pass it over back to Regina.
Thank you so much, Susan. And now we're going to bring in our moderator for this panel. His name is Sadafer Majali. So Sadafer, he is known for Legend, The Interview, Mega, and The Switch. So he said, a human being from planet Earth, acting was never an option growing up. He started in social work before graduating with a degree in economics and started his own business in web design. He was always driven to create something with a purpose, something that brings value to people watching or experience it. That is when he decided to first pursue his acting and then writing and then directing, followed shortly after. So let's welcome Sadafer.
Thank you, Regina. Thank you, Susan. Sorry for the delay, folks, because of the technical difficulties, but With me, I have two really prestigious guests from the CMF. First is Jill Sampson. She's the Deputy Director of the Selective Programs. She has over 20 years of experience with telefilm and CMF. And we have Diego Briseño. He's the Program Lead in Equity and Inclusion at the CMF, co-founder of Maquila, nonprofit media and incubation platform, co-creator and lead developer of the Cuban Hat Project, which is a grassroots documentary pitching contest. Now, Jill and Diego, the CMF. Let's just start from the basics. What is the CMF?
Diego, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, I'll start and then you'll fill
sure.
up the gaps for sure.
Sure.
So, hi everyone. Congratulations for this incredible event and for Asian Heritage Month. So I am currently the program lead for equity and inclusion at CMF. So CMF is a nonprofit organization that is a mix of government and the support of the broadcasting organizations, like telecommunication, actually, companies of the country. And that's what really makes the fund. So we're not, sometimes people are confused. We're not government specific. We're heavily funded through the federal government, but and the mandate is basically to fund television and more also digital media, which includes different types of formats, games, platforms, apps, XR, VR, you name it. Basically $360 million a year to spend, to give to directors, producers, and mostly producers, by the way, because as production companies were the main applicants to this fund. I'm on board since September in this field of specifically equity inclusion with a colleague. We're two people who are at the CMF working with the equity and inclusion. Now I'm happy be with you guys, and we work very closely in almost like a twin system with Telefilm, and Jill works with Telefilm at the side that really supports all the work that CMF does. So maybe Jill, you can tell us about that distinction there.
Yeah, it's super confusing. Why are you applying for Canada Media Fund funding through Telefilm? And that's because we administer the fund for them. So Diego and his team at Telefilm,
no, at CMF.
Or sorry, that's CMF. Thank you, Deal.
No, I don't know.
They write the policy, they make the guidelines, and then we administer it for them. So we have an online portal at Telefilm called Dialogue. Our feature film producers who apply to the Telefilm side use that one, and the Canada Media Fund clients also use that as well. And so my team, which is the CMF PA team, we administer all the funds for the CMF. So you come to us for pre-development, development, production, all the way to the very end of your final costs and closing out of your file. So and any all your analysts that you would speak to all work at Telefilm. So that's our team.
Thank you,
In a
Jill.
nutshell.
Yeah.
First question I have: the pilot program for the racialized creators. What's the difference between development and pre-development?
Pre-development is so there's a this is in the fall. I think it's September 14th when the deadline is. Mm-hmm. So pre-development is when you want to write a pitch document to pitch to a broadcaster. So you'd apply to that fund. It's first come, first serve. Which means, when the money runs out, the money runs out. I advise everybody to apply on the first day as soon as it opens. You don't need any money from a broadcaster, but you do need a letter of interest from a broadcaster. And then for development, it's you do need a broadcaster attached, Canadian broadcaster. And I should say the letter of interest also has to be, we're all dealing with Canadian triggers here, no foreign triggers. A broadcaster has to give you a license fee. We don't specify how much.
No minimum. Mm-hmm.
And then hopefully we help you write, a Bible or a script or a couple of scripts. And then hopefully the next stage is you go into production.
Nice. And so what are some of the criteria to be eligible for submissions? Like what do you look for?
Well, you have to have a production company. So
Okay.
you have to have, a Canadian
Incorporated.
incorporated production company for profit. For this program, the new pilot program for racialized producers, you have to be 51. The applicant owner of the company has to be 51%. Recognized as self-identified as a racialized producer. You need to submit a project that's in either English or French. And I'm just speaking about the production one now. You do require a broadcaster. You don't require one upon application. And if you have one, great. If they need to give you minimum 10% of your budget. But if you don't, you need a third-party trigger. And that's confusing for a lot of people. So I advise you to read the guidelines. It lays out pretty clearly what that is. But just so you know, it means, if you're doing a feature and you can get a distributor, a Canadian distributor on, then that will trigger some tax credits. So you can use that to use as your 15%. If you find a broadcaster that will give you maybe 5% instead of 10, you can use that to trigger tax credits. You'd still eventually have to have your 10% to stay eligible in the fund, but you can still move forward. We have a jury. We have we're accepting projects in English and French. We're going to have separate juries, one in English, one in French. And we have a great group of people from across the country who self-identify as racialized to help us out.
Yeah, maybe I just add to that. The idea I think just to step back a little bit. The idea was to have, it's a new program, so this is the first time. So a lot of things are surprises even for ourselves. But we designed this program to make it as flexible as we could within the constraints. So people don't understand, but CMF does have a lot of constraints. People think, oh, why don't waive the trigger and this, that. We're really making this as flexible we can within the. So CMF has an agreement with the federal government. It's called the contribution agreement, and there's a few, things that we cannot move out of the way. One of them Jill mentioned, the trigger. So we really in the convergence stream. So CMF has the convergence stream and the experimental stream. And within the convergence stream, everything around there pretty much needs some level of commitment from a broadcaster. However, the beauty of this one is that you could actually go without one. Obviously, if you're competing against people who have a broadcaster, those people, correct me if I'm wrong, Jill, they have a bit of an advantage on you. But still, if your project really stands out in other merits, it's a very numeric way of selecting. So there's really an evaluation grid. So it's really percentages within that grid. And if you really hit it very high in some areas, maybe others are lower.
Creatively.
But
yeah.
Exactly. So at the end, it's really a game. But basically, just to say, our idea was to have, we kind of took as much of the latitude we have currently to make a program that was fairly flexible, I would say, and that allowed as many people as we could to enter the system, because we do acknowledge and realize there's not enough racialized producers in the system. This is something since the very beginning, since I came into the CMF, we made some math, and it's really dramatic. We are low, we admit it, and we want to just make sure that more people can enter the system, and then eventually enter the rest of the programs. This is just one program within many programs in the CMF, and obviously a lot of the money that CMF spends, and I forgot to mention that it's pretty important. Something I didn't even realize when I was a producer, how much of the money actually goes as an automatic trigger through the broadcasters. So the broadcasters have what they call the performance envelope, so they can actually trigger automatically the money. There's some conditions, but there's no selection. We really basically, as long as the producer and the paperwork is fine, the money. So most of the money, correct me, Jill, maybe 60-70% of the money goes in.
That's right.
Goes out that way. So just to give people a mindset, the goal with this program is to give people that leverage. So maybe first, second, third project or a more ambitious project that they've done before, so they can go into kind of the leagues of actually being on a one-on-one terms with a lot of these broadcasters and eventually be on the flow of being the system and basically being able to trigger those monies later on. Anyways, that's my little sense about that.
Cool, thanks. Question about broadcasters. Now, do you have any advice how, let's say for me, like I'm a local filmmaker, I do not have big connections, I'm still starting out. How would I approach a broadcaster? How would I get a broadcaster to want to yeah.
Great question. I get asked that a lot. And the first thing I would do is I would go on the CMF website. And if you scroll to the very, very bottom, you'll see envelope allocations. And if you click on, there's development and then there's production. And I would advise you to look at those because those will tell you the amounts of, first of all, which broadcaster has an envelope with us and how much money they have in it. So for dev and for prod, there's a list of English broadcasters and French ones as well. So, if you're not familiar with any of them, I advise you to maybe Google them or set up a call with me and I can walk you through. Some of the broadcasters only do documentaries, some only do feature films, some do theatrical docs, some do just children's programming. So it really sort of depends where your project fits. But another thing I like to tell people is, industry events. Vancouver's full of industry events, Whistler, VIF. I urge you to get out there and take part and network. And you also have some great broadcasters out there. You have Knowledge, I believe, not always works for us, but I believe TELUS is really open to funding BC-based broadcasters as well. So you have options.
Yeah. Well, I have to say, I mean, I was a producer for 20 years, and it's not easy. So let's start by that. Even for non-racialized producers, it's not easy to get that your foot at the door. Sure, there's events, but even those events are crowded. I would argue pitching events are actually a good one for emerging filmmakers, basically because it's hard to get your voice out there. Obviously, there's established producers that can take a phone call any of the broadcasters, hey, can we have a chat? And they will get it because they have the experience, they have a track record. For emerging, especially for racialized, I would say it's a little bit harder, if you don't have that track record. So you'd really have to stand out. And I would say any opportunity you can have to really perform. That's what I'm saying. I've been a pitch trainer for a while, and I think that pitching is one of those places where you can actually shine and stand out. And we, obviously, it's a little bit harder for us. I mean, as all emerging filmmakers, meaning I've seen it even in pitching sessions that someone has just a track record or a couple of stars or names, well-known names, where you can pretty much write a simple concept and go through. I think racialized producers and directors, we have to do that extra mile, make our presentation super sharp, have a killer trailer, and insist. One thing, however, I have to say, and we didn't mention this because I think we wanted to be specific about the PPRC, the new program, the pilot program. The programs we're launching since April 1st also includes an encouragement incentive for broadcasters to take on projects. So just to simplify, I'm going to say this in kind of simple terms, and Jill will correct me if I'm missing something here, is that basically these envelopes, so each broadcaster, there's a list of broadcasters, not every single broadcaster, but most broadcasters that we know and we turn on the TV in Canada are eligible to touch on a chunk of money from the CMF. And so if they okay a project, they can decide to go use that money for that one specific project. Most TV, honestly, that we watch in Canada, good TV, I would say, comes with that money. That's why CMF logo is all over the place because there's hundreds and hundreds of projects that are triggered like that. But that amount, that percentage of the money that they receive is re-evaluated every year, depending on certain criteria. And what we did was for the first time, we incentivize. So if the broadcasters take X amount of projects from racialized producers, again, when I'm saying producers, mean from companies that are majority owned by racialized creators, they get an incentive for the following year. So if they behave, quote unquote, properly this year, and they have X amount of projects this year, the next year they can see their envelope actually increase a little bit. So it's a bit of a, so the whole idea with this PPRC was to have, sure, encouragement with a specific money going directly to producers, but also at the same time having this carrot for broadcasters to be interested to take on the projects. And we've seen the results. I don't know, Jill, from your conversations, I've had the echo that broadcasters are more receptive. They're happier to take those calls that maybe before were harder to do. So, I mean, unfortunately, we're just a few weeks away from the deadline, so it's kind of tight maybe to do those phone calls. That it takes time, obviously, for them to look at your thing and evaluate. But I think this is not going to go away. I think we're pushing hard to have systems like this for a while. Mm-hmm. And I think people should be aware of that. And the last thing I would say is that I am getting emails here from, I just got an email yesterday from Bell Media. Can't say more than that, but they're like, hey, we read the report. We actually pull out a report this week about the situation of producers, and that, you know what, we want to know where those producers are. So I have a conversation with them next week, and I can't tell them who to call, but I'm going to say, hey, they are there. There's a lot of people. They're interested. There's a lot of talent out there, but they're just having a hard time to reach some of these decision makers. So I think the climate is changing. That's the goal with this program. We can't change the whole system, but I think we're just giving a jolt, and both to creators, broadcasters, and even other partners. Even Telefilm, even other funders, to encourage everyone to do their part in changing things and opening the gates for more racialized and eventually other underrepresented groups in the system.
And you're right. If for people who are just learning about this fund now, it might be too late for you to apply for production, which is June 17th.
17. Mm-hmm.
So then I would suggest you take a look at applying for pre-dev or dev, which is gives you some time, because that's not till September.
Yeah.
Question about so talking about languages, and you talked about it's English or French.
Yeah.
Now let's say I have a project that I'm wanting to pitch. It has English, French, First Nations language, and also Hindi, Punjabi, and Cantonese. So like 6 languages are.
Wow. Quite something.
Is it applicable, or is it only? It has to be fully in.
No, I think it would be fine. It depends on how much there is. I mean, it depends on really what we look at is if there's a broadcaster attached, and if it's an English license or a French license, which will sort of depend on where we would put it. But I think that would be. Are you talking about a drama where people are speaking different languages?
Or fiction or documentary?
The majority of the language is in English, but occasionally they speak in their mother tongue, but mostly it's in English.
I think that would be fine.
Okay.
I think Siddhartha has a project already. He's already kind of.
Can I also take this opportunity for anybody who's interested to let you know that we have a diverse language fund, which is in the fall, and it's a fantastic fund where we fund projects that are not in English or French or an indigenous language, and they are in Urdu and Punjabi and Tamil and Russian and Mandarin and Cantonese and anything you want, as long as it is in a genre.
Well, you need a broadcaster. Yeah,
and you need a broadcaster.
Yeah, so
all the programs,
kind of the little thing.
All the programs, you need a broadcaster.
Everything, but back to the language. I mean, I think the common sense, obviously, so people understand this. We do fund most of the programs in CMF funds 2/3 English, 1/3 French. Mm-hmm. Most of the time, it's basically the language in which it was written plus the broadcaster who's attached. So basically, even if you wrote it in French, but your main broadcaster is English, obviously the project. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jill. Last time we had a little confusion there, but it would be English, no? If your main broadcaster is an English broadcaster. So the broadcaster it's one of the bigger things we see. I understand what you mean, because I used to work a lot with documentaries. Sometimes documentary, you have a narrator, but sometimes there's character. You travel, you have a series, and you have one episode that travels to Thailand, and people are talking Thai. And I mean, I think there's common sense that comes in. Obviously, we want to see that the essence of it, that the narrator, whatever, the host or the main story line is in one of the main official languages. But obviously, especially in documentary, I think we understand that things happen and there's things, and then you can subtitle or dub or whatever happens. But yeah, we want to make sure that it is between those two. And if it's really
even in
completely
drama, it
another
would be
language,
fine too.
Yeah, and even, but I'm saying it happens often in documentary because people are traveling around, but yeah, if you have a project that is significantly mainly in another language, the diverse language, the encouragement would be to go to the diverse language, which is a program that existed for a while. I don't know, for a few years now, Jill.
At least
it's been a while.
10 or 11, yeah.
Yeah, it's quite a bit. Yeah.
Nice. Diego, you talked a bit about the evaluation grid. Are you able to give us more specific?
Well, ping ponging with Jill, that she's also an expert. I just want to say kind of the general sense. I mean, as an advice, and Jill does this also, so I'm going to take the opportunity to borrow her words and my own experience as someone who I was actually dealing with Jill before as a producer, so it's funny to be. Yeah, it's funny. It's really we used to be like, "Hey, Jill, hi, I'm the producer. Can you help me?" But I think, and it is true. She says it often, and I did it. So basically, there's two key things here. There's the list of documents. So it's a very kind of, because if you read the guidelines, I mean, you have to read them, but there are, there's a lot of technical language, a lot of legal language, and you definitely have to read it, make sure that you don't waste your time, because it's a big application, especially for production, I would say, but all applications to CMF is not a lean one. You have a lot of paperwork, a lot of contracts, a lot of things to attach. So it's worth making sure your effort is worth it. But then there's a simple, you can download. So there's a kind of the documents that are required, and on the side the grid, the grid, which is part of the guidelines. So in the guidelines, I don't know, page such and such, in the middle of it, you'll find the grid, which is just a kind of a table. And I think the best advice is to really look at your documents and make sure every single document is responding to one of the elements in the grid, and with the best capacity of the project, of the team. So if you see, there's 20% for the team, so how can we make sure we have enough people there to really qualify and really raise the bar of your project? I'm just going to say, I'm going to let Jill say other things about that, because she's more into the details. But I would say that the new thing, and this is a novelty that we proposed when we're designing the program, was to bring what we call is the producer statement. That's a new element that did not exist before, and actually now we've been using in even other programs. What it means is that's the place where we actually can state our connection to either the subject matter, either our team, or the community we're talking about. So make sure that we this is where, and it's something that it's the jury who's going to be evaluating that. So it's really where you can really go a little bit more subjective of how this project connects. And this, I get a lot of calls about, how do you make sure that this is really going to serve the right people, that there are not people sneaking in, that they're not really racialized, or they're kind of just, pretending, or they're doing this and that. I mean, we have different ways to validate that, but I think the key thing with this one particular document is that they have to really prove in words, instead of making going super specific about, you have to be of this and you prove your DNA, instead of that, we really allow the producer to explain themselves. Okay, why are you doing this project? Who is your crew? What community you're talking with? If it's about a community that is not yours necessarily, how you're going to be respectful of that community. So that is the place I really want to highlight, and it's worth 15% of your evaluation. Again, it's a numbers game. It's not so much of a, some people are used to the arts councils where it's like, and I've been many times jury and councils that you have to come to a consensus and everyone has to agree with the list. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jill, but this is more of a numbers game. So every jury is going to be really evaluating numerically each one of these things, and then they add up. And that adding up is what really gives us the list of the projects who are submitted. So I just want to highlight that one, but I'll let Jill talk of the other elements.
Yeah,
of the
I mean, Diego's right. And I just want to make it really clear, take a look at the guidelines, read them 3 times. And the grid that you see is what we're scoring. Mm-hmm. It's very transparent. We have, we've got a market interest section, we've got a team section, we have the producer statement, and then we have your creative section. The team, the market interest is what financial things you're bringing, what your financial structure looks like. Do you have a broadcaster on board already, or do you have that third-party market interest? Because that kind of section, if you don't have those things in place, that's where you sort of stop and you may not be eligible for the program. If you do, we move on and we look at the team section, and that's your production team and your creative team. Your producers make up your production team. It's not your production manager, your cinematographer. It's just really your producers. And my suggestion is, if you're emerging, try and find an experienced executive producer to bring on board who can help you. Not only help you probably with your budgets and the look of the show, but also maybe give you some more points if you are just sort of starting out. And then your writer and creators make up the writer and director, make up the creative team. Producer statement Diego just mentioned, and then the creative section is worth, I think it's 50 points.
50, yeah,
it's
50%.
And that's a big chunk. That's where you can shine. And that is, do you have a Bible? Do you have some scripts ready? Do you, we don't expect you to have everything, of course, because we're going to pay you to help you write and produce this thing. But if you do have if you're doing a series and you have a really great outline, we should read that, because you are competing with a lot of other people and you have to put your best foot forward. And you have to, as Diego says, read the requirement document checklist and tick all the boxes, because we're probably not going to chase you for CVs. Probably not going to, if you've missed some documents, you could lose points, and that would be disappointing for you. So
it's a point game.
Yeah, it's a point game.
Yeah.
And the great thing is that we're really transparent. So the jury members, you'll be able to read what they write about your project. So good or bad, like, we're asking them for really great constructive criticism, good and bad. And we're hoping that if some people aren't getting funding, that they'll take these notes and come back next year with a stronger project. But I didn't even mention our budget. We have a huge budget. We have 10.5 million. 10% of that is going to pre-dev and dev. So $1.5 million goes to pre-dev and dev in September, which leaves us with 9.45, if my math is correct. And that, don't forget, it's 2/3 English, 1/3 French. So I think it's like 6.6 English, something like that. So it's a big chunk of change, so we can fund a lot of projects.
6 point something and 3 something for exactly.
So 6, I think it's 6.6. So that's a lot of projects that we can fund in the English market. So we're looking forward to seeing a lot of really great, strong projects in the genres that we support, which is like drama, which is scripted and animation, children's and youth, variety and performing arts, and documentaries, which could be a documentary one-off, documentary series. Just be careful with those documentary series. Those are always super tricky for us. Make sure it's a real doc. I advise you to go look up on the program. I advise you to go to the CMF website, look up the program, and then in all the documents, look up Appendix A, which shows you everything that we think is eligible, and it shows you what we don't think is eligible. So when you have, if you're renovating your house and you want to do a series about it, probably not eligible.
Or travel shows, or reality TV.
A talk show, a talk show, or
talk show.
We can't support any of those things. So, you want to go and film a football game, we can't support something like that. So anyway, if you have any questions, we also have another thing in Dialogue. You need to have, if you don't already, I suggest, if you plan on applying, open a Dialogue account. You go through the Telefilm website to do that. Because it takes a few days for you to get verified and the account to get open. Please do not wait until the night before, because it won't happen for you. Give yourself plenty of time. And also in there, if you are questioning whether your project would be eligible, there's something called a pre-application consultation. So you could upload your contact details and a one sheet saying, this is my idea. Is it an eligible genre that you support? And we will, we will read it and give you some feedback and say,
Mhm.
absolutely, yes, it looks great. We think it would be eligible, or no, we don't think so.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Diego, you want to say something? I was like,
Maybe to add just on the
Yeah.
101 kind of information, I mean, that people I'm sure are interested, those who want to apply it. Like, so for in production, which is the next, it's really soon, it's the maximums, we can go up to 550K for documentary,
Children's and youth and variety.
and variety and performance, and
50.
750K for drama and animation.
Yeah.
And up to a maximum of 75% of your eligible budget. So one or the other.
60,
basically.
60.
Oh, 60, sorry.
60.
Yeah.
Up to 60. Yeah.
there you have it, folks. They got money. We want it. Just need to apply.
And
Yeah,
get
there
in
you
touch with us. Please ask us any questions. Please feel free to get in touch with us.
Yeah, you guys seem very open and approachable. So I'm pretty sure it's
Yeah.
very well.
I mean, but I insist for specifics, go to Jill and her team. There are a bunch of amazing analysts. If you have things you want to talk about, next things to be improved, or issues you think about that would better serve racialized producers or other underrepresented communities, if you have more of a broader discussion about that, or you want to also discuss about how we can support organizations, we also have that. We deal with that directly through the CMF. So we support initiatives and mentorships and different things like that through the CMF directly. And sure, I'm always happy to talk to producers and creators, especially again, specialty in underrepresented. So we're working with racialized, and so this year we're focusing harder on, and more specifically with LGBTQ plus communities and with people with disabilities. So we're doing a bit of a dive now, consultations, and trying to see how we can also serve and adapt our programs, our services to those communities as well, for hopefully changes that will be able to improve everything for next year, starting next year, the latest.
Cool. Well, we're open for Q&A now. Any questions you folks have for Jill or Diego, please just type in to the Facebook page. But I have a question for Jill and Diego while we're waiting for more questions. What was your journey? How did you start pursuing film? Why did you decide to go into this field?
Diego, do you want to start?
I guess. Well, I mentioned a bit before. I mean, I am still a producer, but I had to kind of put a little hold on my work. So I'm originally from Colombia, so I'm an immigrant. I've been in Montreal for 20-some years, 28 years, I think. It's long while. It goes, time flies. I came to study film, and I was film editor, then director, then producer. I started a company. And then, as you mentioned, I helped create a co-op of immigrants working in film. And then I started to get interested in digital media. I also got interested in pitching. I proposed a kind of an event on pitching. So I kind of always wore those two hats of being a producer, but also kind of helping others, making training, pitching trainings, initiatives, workshops, incubators. And I guess the thing is, obviously, like I think everyone else, I mean, last year was a big year for reality check in terms of race inequality. I was already working with immigrants, already working with underrepresented communities. But I honestly, a year ago, I wasn't even talking about equity and inclusion. Those words came into my lingo in September, and I've been working hard at them. I mean, I think part of the reason why I care for this is, I would argue, a little bit for my daughter. I have a daughter, and she's been called names at school because she's a bit darker skin, and I find that annoying. I find, like, come on, we're in 2021. We should be doing, thinking about the planet, the environment, something else, and not having to be blocked and stopped by some silly thing such as our the color of our skin or a little accent or voice, and I think we should all have a fair chance. And I'm outspoken. I'm not a necessarily the usual bureaucrat. I am still kind of a producer at heart and still care for what people are doing and struggling through. And I think there's a lot to be done. I think we still have to raise the bar. And I still think we can, beyond racialized or not racial, I think we can still work for better quality content in Canada that it's consumed by more Canadians and that can be exported across the world. And I think that's the potential is there for Canada to be there. And I think we're still not fully there. And I think part of it is really opening the gates and having more diverse voices and more diverse talent being able to do stuff. And that's why I'm here.
Right.
Jill.
I started out making industrial videos in Spanish and Italian, and then Portuguese, and then I became an actor, a very famous actor's assistant. And then I got into, I live in Toronto, so I got into film, and I was an assistant director for years. I was a first AD for a long time, and then I joined Telefilm, and I've been here for, I think, 14 years. And I just really love working with producers and helping them find money to create. So I love it. I
Music to
love
our
it.
ears. Music to our ears. Find money to create. Question here from Barbara. Do you think CMF is interested in supporting Asian diaspora content that may find global markets?
That's. CMF. I mean, from our perspective, and CMF meaning and our equity inclusion, for sure, we're interested to open. We acknowledge and we really can admit to the fact that our current situation is we're very homogeneous. I think we are. I mean, not to say we don't produce some great content, but I still think that people are telling the stories, the type of stories that are told. Even though we've obviously had some incredible examples of good work that represents diverse communities, I think we're still in the early stage. And I think our job, again, I talk mostly from our small team. We're 2 people at the CMF who are working on equity and inclusion to really find ways to support people, to really all kinds of people from different diasporas and origins and backgrounds and limitations to really tell the best stories possible. But again, I would just have to say CMF, for people that sometimes people confuse us with how Telefilm works or the Arts Council work, we are still heavily dependent on broadcasters. So most of, like I said originally, 60 to 70% of the stuff we fund is funded because the broadcasters give it a green light. So it's kind of a synergy. So we don't really have much control there. We can obviously have some guidelines. We ask them to respect a few basics, and we do encouragements like this. Like I said before, we're capable of creating incentives. And we were actually very, very successful. Just to say, for instance, with gender parity is something that exists since 2017, I think, Jill. Yeah, the whole notion of a party, and it's incredible. We're not there. I think there's still work to be done, but I think at least at the producers level, we saw a huge change, a wave of new producers, female producers that came in without necessarily having to pick. We just created the incentives, almost like a numbers game again. It's like, okay, we create, we tweak, we encourage incentive here, new little program there, and see how the thing grows, and it worked. And I think we can do the same with other communities. And again, it's not so much about the content. I wouldn't say we're specifically interested in one or the other. We just wanted to make it more, more available, more accessible for more people, and really be able to find those gems, no matter your origin or your situation, your limitation. I don't know.
Can I say something, because we get asked this question all the time?
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Please do.
What are Netflix Canada and is Netflix Canada and Amazon eligible to trigger projects? No, because they don't pay into the system at this time. So no, they can't. So only the Canadian broadcasters, the CRTC licensed Canadian broadcasters at this time.
But that's right now, as part of the CMF discussion right now. We are in the midst of, not to say that's going to happen, but we are, I think, coming to the realization that, you know, the whole panorama is changing a lot. The technology is changing, the business model is changing. And right now, as we speak, the CMF is going through big transformation. We're talking about kind of rewriting a bit the rules, rethinking the architecture of programs. Again, I don't know what's going to come out of it, but that's, as we speak, that is kind of the mantra. Obviously, accompanied with all the discussions happening at the federal level, the new law, which now we don't know really what's going to happen with that law, but that is, we're living right now, I think, an interesting time of a lot of change. And I encourage people, literally, we see it as a time to be activated, to request things, to push for change, to harass people like me. In that case, you can harass me. Let Jill deal with the problem. But, insist on change, insist of, hey, what about us? What's going on? What about that rule? Can we change? But the only way to get there, again, is the similar thing that Jill says. Read those guidelines, read our website, read the principles of the CMF with a highlighter, and really because it's not so much about saying, oh, I want more money. You have to go, okay, listen, what if you guys change this? What would it take? And sometimes say, listen, you have to talk to the government, and then go get together and lobby the Heritage Canada and say, hey, why don't you change this? And we're living in a climate like that right now, I think, across the country. The changes are happening, and equity and inclusion, again, diversity, equity, inclusion are a big topic. They're political. So I think we should use it and leverage it to make sure that there's more, that changes that are positive impacts for everyone, and especially for those who have been underserved in the past.
One thing I forgot to mention is that we also have international incentives. So we have programs with other countries. So if you have friends in some of the countries that we have MOUs with, we would love you to apply to the funds. So I think currently coming back this year, Berlin, we have one with Berlin. In the past, we've had one with Colombia and Argentina, Mexico,
South Africa,
Ireland, Northern Ireland. So check the website. And there's also a place on the website where you can put your company details in, and co-producers can find you. Or you can find a co-producer. You can, pick what you want to do, development, TV or digital, what country you want to work with, and that people's names will come up and you can contact them.
Wow, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, and by the way, that's one of the ways, that's the gate I use, and Jill knows as well, that is because it's less competitive. I have to say, just to be transparent here, I mean, it's a little bit less competitive because it's really specific about producers who are working from one country to the other. So it's not like anyone with a product. It's really products that have that alignment with another company in another country. Luckily, I had traveled a lot with all my.
Whoa!
Oh, he froze. Oh, you froze for a second.
Pause there.
Oh, it froze.
Yeah, and so if you have, especially again, back to people who have roots in other countries, or you have friends, or you travel a lot, that's a key. It's an interesting way to open like a first grant or something, or as first funding to get in the door. So it's a good one. Yeah, it's a good point. Jim.
We don't have one with every country, obviously. I mean, we have treaties with over 60 countries. We don't have 60 programs, but I think there's like maybe 10. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, any last thoughts, Jill or Diego? Any questions from the folks?
Yeah, I guess if you're thinking of applying, as I said, just please read the guidelines a lot. If you have questions, contact us. Make sure, remember, if you are applying for production, make sure that it's a competitive fund and put your best foot forward, and make sure you get all those documents in. If you're applying for pre-dev and dev, make sure you get in on the day, please, and make sure also there are documents required, much less, I think maybe 5 or 6 required for those funds, but please make sure you submit, because if you don't, you could lose out. So if you don't have all the documents too, you could lose out. So
copy that.
Put your best foot forward.
Yeah, I just gotta keep it short. I have to go really soon, but I would say really strive for excellence. I mean, and one of the ways, some people say, "Oh, I'm alone. I'm this. I'm not. I'm not known." It's like think in teams. I think some of our communities are stronger in teams. So if you really find, you're maybe an emerging, but you find a killer DOP and a strong editor and a executive producer, like Jill said, and also working. That's why, again, I help create a co-op, is really read your stuff between you guys, between the team, and push yourself to really have the best synopsis, the best treatment, the best everything you can possibly have. It's not, sometimes we just write things at the last minute, at the end of the day, and we're like, oh, whatever, send it. But it's a lot of work, and I think we know that people with a lot of talent, but sometimes you don't put that sharp mind to work. And I think really try your best, reread, get other people to read your stuff, and also the details. Sometimes consistency between, for instance, budget, a timeline or calendar and script. Sometimes you my experience with juries are clever at that. As, oh, but you said this, but it's not in the budget, or it's not in this, or not in the, it's not in the calendar. Kind of anything that you can raise a flag, it starts to be kind of problem. So make sure everything is really consistent. Everyone's kind of makes sense. The whole proposal really makes sense altogether.
If you have to go, Diego,
I'm going to have to jump off.
Thank
I can
you, Diego.
save and take a couple of more questions.
Yes, we have a question actually.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Diego.
No problem. So feel free to share my email. I'm available if you guys have any other questions. Now you know more or less in what territory. Okay, Jill, have a good weekend, everyone.
Have
a great weekend.
Happy Asian Heritage Month, and see you soon.
You.
Bye.
Bye.
There's a question, Jill, just to add to your what you're going to say is, what is the most common missing item?
It's a great question. A director and shareholder form, agreements. If you have financing partners and you say, oh, so-and-so has come on board and we don't have their agreement, how do we know they've come on board?
Yeah.
CVs, a lot of times people miss CVs. You just have to be really diligent in going over that checklist and make sure you send everything in, because we're not going to chase you down for it. We're busy. We look at 2,000 files a year. It is a selective fund. So you do have to put, and you're asking for, if you're asking for 750,000, that's, you gotta do the paperwork to get it,
big money.
Get it in.
Yeah.
I will say one thing, and this is common that I see in the selective funds, whether it's development or whether it's production. Some people think that if they ask for less money, will look more favorably on their project, and that's completely untrue. You should ask for what you need. Because we're going to read, we're all pretty savvy, and the jurors very savvy, and we're going to read your treatment or your scripts, and if there's a bunch of vis effects or whatever, and your budget's 300,000, we're going to look at it and go, I don't think they can make it for 300,000. So we'll look less favorably on your project. So really, put in a budget that's realistic. Don't be afraid of asking the max. If you need the max, it's okay. We don't look at projects regionally, so we don't say, oh, we have to have 3 from Nova Scotia, and we just look the best projects get the money. So yeah, that's how it works.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, Jill, for all the information, and I think
my pleasure. Happy 25th anniversary, VAF.
Yep.
Amazing.
Quarter century.
Yeah, it's so great.
Yeah. So I guess we'll wrap up right now. Thank you, folks, for joining us. And Regina will take over. Or yeah, there you go.
There you go. All right. So thank you so much. Oh my God, this is it's great resources conversation that I think we definitely learned a lot, and also the contact information that we get from Monica and Christine, and then and also you open it up to have our viewers to contact you. So
yeah, I'm happy to. Yeah,
take advantage. If you guys have any questions before the first one, that is the closing date, is on June 17. That is for the production fund for that pilot program. And then the development and the peer development fund, the opening date is September 14. So,
and sometimes closing date.
And sometimes closing date soon. So look at the website and then go and check it out and get more information. So thank you for everyone to tuning in this afternoon. So now I would like to invite Barbara Lee, our founder and president of Vancouver Asian Film Festival, to say a few words.
Thank you, Regina and Sid. Thank you, Josh in the back. And I just wanted to thank Jill and Diego. That was really, really helpful information. And having been around for 25 years, I know that it takes a few times of seeing CMF and Telefilm and National Film Board for us to feel comfortable to have these conversations. So the more that we see CMF, the better. So I really want to thank CMF for supporting these lunch and learns and also getting out into the community to meet the racialized filmmakers and creators. So I just wanted to say thank you to the team, and also thank you for the people that are here, and to let you know that Eliminate Hate, which broke my heart listening to Diego's story about her daughter. That was terrible, and nobody should have to put up with that, especially somebody so young. So please come out and support Eliminate Hate. We are doing a Reclaim Your Name project, which is a starting point for people to talk about if they had to take a westernized name, if they felt like they had to do that to fit in and to feel othered if they didn't. And if they didn't have to take, or if they didn't take a westernized name, did they feel, were they teased? There's some stories, are there feelings around, or were their names mispronounced? So we want to hear everybody's story, because we think names can be powerful, and we would love to hear your story, and that's the beginning of these difficult conversations. So please, you can go onto your TikTok channel if you want, or else we'll have a webpage that you can drop your clips in, and we will make a TikTok and also post on our Instagram as well. So thank you again. Have a great rest of your day. And we do have a second session coming up at 2 p.m. So hopefully you can make that. And we'll see you soon. Or sorry, it's 4 p.m. We'll see you soon. Thank you.
Great, Rob. Yes, that was wonderful. Yes, thank you for this, letting everyone know. So just to recap, so we have our next panels is coming at 4 p.m. Pacific time and 7 p.m. East Coast time. The panel is Creators Making It in Vancouver, co-presented by BIPOC TV and Film. And thank you so much, everyone. If you enjoy what you just saw, tell your friends, tag us at our social media channel at VAF Vancouver, hashtag VAF, hashtag VAF Industry, and continue to join these conversations. And also, we're entirely actually produced by a group of volunteers, and make a donation at vaf.org. So, and stay strong, guys, and take it easy, and see you at 4 p.m. again. Thank you. Goodbye.